So everybody else is out there like, I got to pay, I got to get a down payment. I got to get credit. I got to go to the bank. I got to do that. I haven't done that in the last 700 transactions. I have not used a bank, my credit, credentials. I don't even know what my credit score is. And I'm buying typically 2 to 3 Airbnbs every single month utilizing creative finance.
What's going on, everybody? Jorge Contreras here, and welcome to the Jorge Contreras podcast, a podcast for real estate entrepreneurs and those who want to build a six-figure short-term rental business. And on today's episode, I have the honor and the pleasure of having the sub-2 legend, Pace Morby. What's going on, brother?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Hey, man, first thing, your background is dope. Tell me
Thanks,
about
man.
your background.
This background, there's a little story. I'll tell you the story on it real quick. It is, it's a commissioned painting, and the artist's name is Jay Valentine. And I commissioned this painting. I saw, like, in Atlanta is one of my favorite cities. It just has a different vibe. And so I go to Atlanta all the time. It's where most of my short-term rentals are, is actually in Atlanta. And I go there, and in this little part of town, there's a crossroads called Little Five Points, right? And there's 5 streets that all come together, and it's called Little Five Points. Behind one of the buildings, there's this massive, like 150 foot wide, 50-foot mural of Outkast. And for anybody that doesn't know Outkast, one of the most prolific rap groups of all time. They changed music. They changed so many things. But I have always loved them for several reasons, their music and all that kind of stuff. But they have this song. There's 2 songs actually that are called The Art of Storytelling Part 1 and The Art of Storytelling Part 2. And why is that so important? It's because literally everything we do in real estate and everything we do in sales, everything we do in business is about the ability to tell a story and convey a message to your seller, to your buyer, to your lender, to your private money lender, to investors, to employees, whatever. It's conveying a message through story is always going to be way more successful than just saying, hey, the sky is blue, right? And so I commissioned this painting from Jay Valentine. It's huge. The painting's like 30 feet behind me. You can't tell. It's really big. It's a massive, massive painting. I commissioned it because I wanted to be reminded that my job is to tell stories, not just pass on information, but pass on information through stories. So it reminds me. And Big Boy right here, and then Andre. Big Boy has actually become a recent friend of mine. And, the TV show that we're on with A&E, Big Boy is also on A&E, and he sees a live of me with him in the background. And I'm like, dude, that's so amazing. He reaches out to me. He's like, man, I love that I always got your back. I was like, oh, that's so sick. And so we've become friends, and his son, Bamboo, has been hanging around and doing stuff with us, and we're working on some real estate projects together. I never thought that I would be doing real estate projects with freaking Outkast, but here we are. So that's the story of my background.
I love it, man. Thanks for sharing. So, there's that saying that goes along the lines of people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it's the first time I ever talked to you. And in the first like 20 minutes, even pre-recording the podcast, I get like this sense that you like deeply, really, just really care, like out of the ordinary, out of the normal range of like other entrepreneurs, I've ever spoken to. What is this deep level of like just really care, love, and like dedication? Because like this Saturday morning, we're recording this podcast. You could be with your kids, your wife, but like you're here sharing your story and sharing your message. So like, where does that come from?
Well, I have 12 kids in my family, right? So I'm one of 12 children. My parents loved each other, great relationship. I got to see all that. So maybe it comes from that. Might come from the work ethic that I have and understanding that other people weren't. I was born on third base. Okay. So what do I mean by that? If the game of life is a baseball field and a baseball game, and your job is to score a home run and become successful, right? Or to get around the bases. I was born on third base, right? I have advantages other people don't have. I have parents that are still together, still married. I have parents that both work. My dad has crazy work ethic. I was born in a family where my parents valued religion and culture and things of that nature. And so I grew up with those things. So when you get into the business world, you realize the majority of people fail because they're lacking the opportunity, the platform that I was given at birth. So essentially, I was born on third base. I really don't have to go that far to be successful. But I'm standing here on third base, and you know what I can see when I'm on third base is I can see the dugout. I can see where all the other players are. They feel trapped. They haven't even had a chance to bat yet. And so my job as somebody who was born in the position I'm in is to get all my people out of the dugout, get them a chance at bat, and all of them to get around the bases. And so I feel like if you are born with the ability to speak, the ability, to have a higher level of intelligence than most people, your job, your duty is to turn around and drag people through the fire to get them to be successful. And I don't know necessarily where it comes from, but I stress out when I hear people on stage or on YouTube just talking about the motivational things that don't actually help anybody long term. And I think also, to button this up, it's that I value emotional income way more than I value financial income. And what do I mean by that? When somebody says you changed my life, and same thing with you, Jorge, is that you get somebody says you changed my life. My wife and I bought our first house because of the money we made, or my wife and I now have financial freedom, or any of that kind of stuff. You realize, whoa, look at the power that I have. This is amazing. Somebody gave this power to me. It's my job to go through and get people to come through the fire. And so what I started doing 6 years ago, started doing crazy stuff. I used to tell people, hey, I'm doing real estate deals. I'm not saying I'm the greatest at this at all. I still am not, but I want to show you what it feels like to go on an appointment. I want to show you what it feels like to buy a house. I want to show you what it feels like to be on a job site. And I want to show you what it feels like to raise money, go to meetings with attorneys and see what these conversations look and feel and smell like. Because when I started, all I had was just mentorships that, you pay money to, which, mentorships are amazing. You get the value out of them, but nobody really showed me how to do anything. So I used to go on my Instagram stories and say, if you want to follow me around, meet me at Circle K at 6 a.m. and you can jump in my Prius with me on a Saturday and spend the whole Saturday with me. So I made this post, and 6 a.m. Saturday comes, nobody shows up. Literally nobody shows up. So I then go, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around town today and I'm going to take a selfie of myself every time I'm at a new location. And I'm going to go, oh man, I'm having such a great day. The people that are riding along with me in my Prius are learning so much. Meanwhile, there was nobody. I was just kind of in my mind thinking, I'm going to fill this Prius. I'm going to help people change their lives. Well, dude, like those were the posts that made people they felt like they missed out on something. And all of the sudden, next week, I did the same thing again. Saturday, 6 a.m. I had 3 people show up. 3 people showed up to that Circle K at 6 a.m. And I was like, perfect. I got a Prius that has 3 seats. This is great. We go spend the whole day together. And these people at the end of the day are like, you took 2 years of my education and you gave me more value in 12 hours in your little teeny little Prius than I got in 2 years of going to seminars, reading books, YouTube videos, podcasts, etc. Because I got to see, smell, and feel what it felt like to be in the seat of an investor. I was like, that's cool. This got to a point where it got so big that one day I showed up to Circle K, and I believe the number we counted, this is about a month later, we had 183 people in the Circle K parking lot at 6 a.m. on a Saturday that were like, I want to ride along with Pace. And I realized in that moment, Jorge, the same thing you've realized is, through being an educator and putting your time and energy into a podcast, which people don't really realize what goes into a podcast. They just think you turn on a camera and you're done. The majority of the work is outside of the actual podcast. And so you put in so much time, energy, sacrifice into providing value to people. It's because you understand the same thing I understand, which is you have a duty, you have a responsibility. 90% or more people were not as lucky as you and I. And so it's our job to turn around and say, how can we drag you through that fire instead of just giving you a bunch of hoorah, motivational stuff? I'm going to show you what this business really looks like. Even if it's the nitty gritty hard stuff that you need to know, I'm going to show you. And that's where I get the most of my emotional income, is that people go, I got a $50,000 check today because of you. Or, hey, I made $100,000 this year and I was able to quit my job because of a free YouTube that you have. Right. And the emotional income is, I think, why guys like you and I work so hard on this kind of stuff.
I love that, man. So powerful. You mentioned a couple really good nuggets there that I want to expand on. First thing is, I remember when we did this like off market deal like 4 years ago. It was like the first one, and had no idea what I was doing, me and my business partner, but we got this deal from a wholesaler. And long story short, I told my partner, I said, dude, I don't care if we don't make any money. I care about who we become in the process, because who we become in the process will eventually make us millions of dollars, right? So, in your experience, what are some of the experiences that you've had, like in the last decade or more, being in this field? Not from strategies, but like just mindset, personal development. Like, what has helped you get to where you are today?
The most important thing for me is I stopped looking at the money. I started looking at how many people rely on me on a daily basis. So when I leave my house, I'm not making decisions for my wife and kids anymore, because my wife and kids are fine, right? Like, we have everything we need. We got the house, we got the cars, we got the financial. We now have 725 doors in our portfolio. We're fine. But how did I get there? Is that I made the decision that it wasn't going to be about me and it wasn't going to be about my family, because we're going to be perfectly fine in the process. Same thing with you. What I made the determination of is how many mouths are fed on a daily basis because of decisions I make. And so I made a goal. This year, my goal is to have 1,000 people working for my 9 businesses. And I'm not there yet. I'm about 70% of the way to that goal. And I do the math. I go, okay, if I have 700 people working for me in all my businesses, those 700 people have 4 people that rely on them. So that's 5 people combined. Every time a paycheck is made from my company, 5 people are relying on that. How many meals are fed to those 5 people every day? 15. 15 meals times 700. So you do the math on that. You're looking at, let's look at that math real quick. This is what motivates me more than anything else. Because in the beginning, most people think, how do I make 10 grand a month so I don't have to work in my shitty job? I'm at a point now where I'm like, 700 times 15 is 10,500 meals every single day are fed because of good decisions I make and the work that I put in. And so the mindset is never about me. Even now in my multifamily business, I could make the goal of, I want to become a billionaire through multifamily real estate investing and short-term rentals and things like that. That could be my goal. But my actual goal is different. My goal is, how do I make 100 millionaires that are working for me through the process of buying multifamily and short-term rentals? And so now when I come in, my goal doesn't seem so crazy and ludicrous of $1 billion. My goal is, how do I generate $100 million in wealth for people who work for me? And in that process, I will then become a billionaire. And, John D. Rockefeller was asked one time, how did you become a billionaire? And his answer was, I made 100 millionaires. And so the process is no longer about me, but how do I work for the people, and how do I care so much about them and their family and their decisions? And not everybody was built like you, Jorge. Not everybody was built like me. We have a responsibility to go carry the torch and put ourselves in risky situations and do what you did with your partner of like, I don't care what this makes us. I care who we become. I look at it like you're a big onion and you're just peeling away the layers, the ugly layers, to get to the real juicy part of who you really are. You've always been a leader. It's just that these experiences pulled back another layer to expose the best parts of you. And so that's what that transaction did, is it exposes the best parts of you. And so that's really, I think, the biggest mindset thing that I carry forward to try and become successful.
Love it. And one day I walked into this personal development, emotional intelligence training in 2016. And when I sat down in the chair, it was like 300 of us. And then there was like the transformational trainer on the front. And I had this belief that who I am today is getting in the way of who I want to become. Sounds very logical. But then the trainer said, actually, Jorge, who you have become is getting in the way of who you've always been. He said, because when you were 3, I'm gonna say it again because every time I say this, people always say, can you say that again? So what he said is, who you have become is getting in the way of who you've always been. And he went on to expand that, when we were like 3 years old, he said, what did you have then that you don't have now? And people shouted all these words. He's like, yeah, that's good, but that's not it. He said, it's freedom. He said, when you were 3, like, you didn't care if people judge you. You didn't care if you fell off the scooter or the bike. Like, you just got up and did it again. You tried over and over and over. and you weren't, trying to please people. You didn't walk on eggshells. You didn't ask for permission. Like, you just had complete freedom. But since then, up until now, there's been all these challenges. Like, maybe your parents got divorced, maybe someone abandoned you, maybe, right? And so usually when they say that, all we have to really do is remember who we are. And so when I hear you speak, Pace, I hear this like deep level of care, this deep level of emotional intelligence, and you think completely different than like 99% of people. What have you experienced in your life, or what kind of experiences have you had? Like, there must have been a turning point in your life where you're like, it's no longer about my family. It's about, feeding, 10,500 meals a day. Like, if you could just share an experience or expand on
Yeah,
that.
I actually, when you start making money, this is the funny thing, because you put in any hard work. Thank you for that. That's a really good. I'm gonna use that and credit that to you. That's really good. Who you have become is getting in the way of who you've always been. That's a really great phrase. I like that a lot. And like to dial that back into a very specific thing for anybody that might not understand what that means. For me, that means when you start making money in this business because you apply consistency and hard work on, let's say, finding deals, raising capital, and meeting and networking, you're going to get a deal and you're going to make money. It's going to happen, right? As long as you're consistent, you do what you're told, you follow instructions, you don't give up, because a lot of people give up after 3 days. Like, wait, I thought I was supposed to get a deal after 3 days. Like, no, you haven't done anything until you're on day 91 that you've done 90 days of consistent action. I always tell people, you know how long it takes to be consistent? Is 91 days. And on the 91st day, you can say you've been consistent for 1 day.
Mm.
You have to be consistent for 90 days in order for you to say you've been consistent for one, and is my personal opinion. It doesn't begin. Consistency doesn't begin until day 91. So anyway, if you do that, you're going to get a deal. And so that's what happened. You start making money. Okay. And you start making money. And what happens is you forget that it was never you that made the money. It was the people around you that helped you and gave you the ability, or the people you helped, the seller you helped, or the wholesaler you helped by buying the deal, or a wholesaler you helped by negotiating a deal. It was all these people that were around you that gave you the opportunity to make that money. And when you become the person of like, I made this much money, you forget what actually got you in the position in the first place. And you get these people that get super big egos, right? Like, they're driving the Lambos and they're driving, they got all the fancy things and whatever else. And you're like, dude, who you've become is getting in the way of who you've always been. You've always been a leader. And being a leader and somebody who's consistent is what got you to where you are, but you've forgotten that in the process. And now what happens is there was a moment, probably 5 years ago, there was a moment where I told myself, like, look how smart I am. Look how good I am. I'm so great. I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. And then what happened is I could see a very specific decline in my business because the people that got me there were retreating from that attitude. When originally they were attracted to the who I was, but who I was becoming was pushing them away.
Mm.
And when you recognize that, and you recognize that the gifts that you have, the consistency, the ethic, the work ethic, and the drive was actually a gift given to you from the universe, whether it's God, Buddha, whoever it is for you. The universe gave me something, and it's just up to me to utilize it properly. And when you forget that it wasn't you, people start retreating away from you and you lose all your superpowers.
Beautiful. I love it. Yeah, there's this story I heard once from, I don't know if you know Vishen Lakhiani from Mind Valley, and he was talking about the story one time that Michael Jackson woke up like at 4 in the morning one day, and he called his manager and he said, "Hey, I need to go to the studio. I need to write this song." And the manager was like, "Sounds good, man. Come in the morning when we open up." He's like, "No, you don't understand. I need to write this song right now, because if I don't write it, Prince is gonna write it." And what he was trying to say is that when whatever higher power, like you just said, God, the universe, Buddha, it's almost like they want something to happen that's gonna like impact and transform people's lives. And then all that's happening is they're looking for a vehicle, right? One of us to say, "I'm gonna be that guy." And what happens when you don't believe in yourself, when you don't take action on that vision, that download you get, then guess what? They go and find someone else to be that vehicle. And when I hear you,
I freaking love that. Do you know the name of the song?
Ah, dude,
I got to pull that up because that's a great story. That's a great
dude,
story.
it's so powerful
This
because
do this happens in my own personal business with employees. I get people who will come to me, Jorge, and they go, "Hey, Pace, I want to get a raise." And I go, "Perfect. I've got like 15 things that I need done in this business that are not happening. I'm going to give you some of these responsibilities, and if you can accomplish them, um, you'll get the raise." Okay. So 3 months goes by, and instead of them doing those items, I have another employee doing those items. So the first employee comes to me and goes, "Dude, what the heck? Why did you give those items to the other employee?" I go, "I told you I needed to get them done. You told me you wanted a raise. You didn't do anything with them." The next employee comes to me and goes, "I want a raise." I give them the same opportunity as I gave you. And now they're the ones that took and executed. And now they're the ones making double what you were making and whatever else. So I tell people in my team, I go, if I give you a responsibility, it's an opportunity for you to shine and make more money and become more and more and more. But if you don't take action on it, I'm not going to remind you. Your actions told me you were no longer interested. And so I'm going to go give that to the next person. So that reminds me of that story with Michael Jackson. That's so freaking good because it's like a higher power giving you an opportunity. And Michael Jackson is probably sitting there saying, "Please, universe, give me my next thing. Give me my next inspiration. Give me my next inspiration," which there's probably people out there in the audience right now like, "Please, God, give me an opportunity." Check this out. Last night, I'm at a speaking engagement. Guy comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Pace, I'm a huge fan. I actually came here because of you. It wasn't my event. It was somebody else's event." And he goes, "I actually came here. I wanted to talk to you." And I go, "Great. What's going on?" This guy didn't even know what comping a property meant, Jorge. Literally didn't even know what comping a property was. I go, "Well, do you know how to comp properties?" He goes, What does that mean?" I was like, wow, I haven't had anybody tell me they didn't know how to comp a property in like 5 years. Okay. And he goes, "I don't know what it was, but something told me I had to come and meet you tonight." And I go, "All right, well, let me give you an opportunity. What do you do for a living?" He goes, I work at Red Bull 4 days on and 3 days off. And then the next week it's 4 days, 3 days on and 4 days off. And I'm like, "Wow, so you have a lot of time." He goes, "Yeah, but I don't know what to do." And I go, "Here's what I'm going to do. First step, what's your salary at Red Bull?" He tells me it's like $3,500. I go, "Great. Here's what I want you to do, Tony." And this is his real name. So maybe he'll hear this. I go, "Tony, I'm going to pay you $3,500. I'm going to double your salary this next month. And what I want you to do, okay, I want you to do this for me. I want you to come and learn from my team. I don't want you working for me. You don't work for me. I'm just going to pay you $3,500. I want you to come and learn how to comp and underwrite deals for 30 days. I want you to just master that one skill for 30 days in your off time. So you're 3 days off and you're 4 days off the next week. I want you to come and spend 14 days in the next month at my office and working with my team, just watching how we underwrite, we comp deals. That's all. I don't want you learning how to buy deals. I don't want you to learn how to raise money. I just want you to learn how to comp deals." And he goes, "I don't get it. You're going to pay me to do this?" I go, "Bro, the universe told you to come here today, and the universe is giving you a sign that I want to help you. I care so much. So here's what I want." He goes, "Well, what's the catch?" I go, here's what I want. I want you to go find 50 other people that don't know how to comp either. Facebook groups, YouTube comments, podcast comments, whatever. I want you to go find people, and I want you to go home every day. And for an hour, I want you to teach 50 other people what you learned for those 8 hours during the day." And he's like, "That's it?" And I go, "Yep. And I'll pay you to do that." And he's like, "You're kidding me. You're absolutely kidding me." And I go, "No. The universe told you to be here. You took action. I reward action. You freaking took action. You didn't even know what to do here other than you just were told to show up, and you freaking showed up, which is 99% of people's problems is they just don't show up. So I'm going to reward you with the caveat that you go reward 50 other people." And that's what this business is about, is taking action when you feel inclined to do so, and you don't sit around. He says it was almost like, this is what Tony says to me. He goes, "I'm so glad I fought the urge to sit down." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, my brain was telling me go, and my body was telling me stay stuck in this chair. And he's like, "I had to fight myself out of this chair to come to this event." And so there's a lot of people listening to this right now of like, I know I need to take action. I know I need to do something about it. Your brain's telling you that, but your ass, wants to keep sitting in that chair. Guys, you have to fight through that and you have to take action, because the universe will reward you as a vessel of whatever it is that it's trying to get you to do.
It's powerful because it's like every other person who wants to get into this business or any business or just be successful in anything, right? It's like they get those same urges. They get that self-doubt. They're not good enough. They're not worthy. What if I fail? What if this happens? And what's really powerful about Tony is he doesn't know anything about this business. So he probably had a lot of conversations of what if he makes fun of me? What if someone else hears me and makes fun of me? What if they judge me? But he fought all those, limiting beliefs and negative thoughts. And like he just went up there to explore the possibilities, right? And he opened a door, and now that door is open, and now like his life will potentially just change forever and maybe become the greatest version of himself. And I remember like 4 years ago, one of my buddies hits me up and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to have Ed Milet on my podcast. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Bro, absolutely." And we went to his property, his home in Laguna Beach. And Ed Milet said something like so powerful, like every time I share it, I get the chills. But he has this belief, like, some people have really strong beliefs, whether it's about family or health or what they eat or religion, whatever it is. He's got this really strong belief that when he dies, he's going to meet the greatest version of himself. And when he meets the greatest version of himself, he wants to be so identical that you can't tell them apart.
Wow, that's really good.
And that's really powerful. Like if you actually think about that, like in physical or spiritual form, like you die and you meet like who you could have become. And you're
That's
either
so good, dude. I've never heard Ed say that.
You're either going to be like, I can't tell them apart because you became the greatest version of yourself, or you'll be there and regret, like, wow, this is who I could have been.
That's so good, dude. That's so good.
That's Ed Milet, man. I love it, man. I'm really enjoying this podcast. So I think one of the things that drew me to you, right, is when I heard your student talk about doing sub two to Airbnb. Personally, I don't have much experience in sub two. I feel like I understand a little bit, but for my audience, who is pretty much all people who want to build a six-figure Airbnb business, right? Talk to us a little bit about what is sub two. How does that work?
Okay, so let's say there's multiple ways to get a deal, right? You can go direct to seller, okay, meaning I'm going to go talk to the seller directly. It's very literal. Direct to seller is what we call that model. I'm going to cold call. I'm going to door knock. I'm going to send postcards. I'm going to do billboards, TV, radio, PPC, which is pay per click, like pay for somebody to advertise on the internet for me so a seller of a home can click on my ad and call me, right? There's so many different ways to get directly in touch with the seller, right? There's what I've counted is 50 ways. Bandit signs, right? Putting signs on the side of the yard or the road and saying, we buy houses for cash. We've all seen those. That is a direct to seller model. I'm going directly to the seller, okay? Another model is having wholesalers bring you a deal, right? Where the wholesaler goes direct to seller. They turn around and sell you the contract. You have a real estate agent go direct to the seller, and then they bring you the contract, right? There's all these ways to get deals. But what happens is there's all these leads that people don't convert into a deal because a seller can't accept a lower offer, right? So let's take kind of the median house price is about 300 grand. So let's say you have a seller that looks on Zillow and they need to move, right? They look on Zillow and they say, my house is worth 300 grand because that's what Zillow told me. So a wholesaler or an agent or somebody that's trying to negotiate a contract with them says, well, you got to fix things and you're this and that and whatever. And actually your offer is the best offer I can give you is $200,000. And the seller says, yeah, no thanks. I'll go list it on the market or whatever, right? And then at that point, as the investor, the only possibility you have is to go buy a house full retail on the market, right. Go get a loan, put a ton of money down, which is the BRRRR strategy. And that's what a lot of people do. But the BRRRR strategy, which I also use, just requires a tremendous amount of cash, and it inhibits and slows down your growth.
Right.
So what we do is my students learn, or people that have been doing subject to and seller finance strategies for 100+ years, we go to those leads that want too much money or don't have equity. Okay. So like, here, I'll give you an actual example. If you give me screen sharing capabilities, I'll show you something.
There you go.
Okay. So I've got a house, and I put these on my YouTube channel all the time. Seller calls that I have with sellers. And I've got a property in Branch Forest Way. So 405 Branch
You know,
Forest.
I'm not able to see your screen in
I know
case.
I haven't shared it yet.
Oh, okay, got it. Cool.
I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay.
405 Branch Forest in Stockbridge, Georgia. Let me pull it up. Sorry, I had to pull it up on Zillow before, so you guys didn't have
No
to
worries.
watch me. So this house right here. Okay, so I just bought this house subject to. Okay, and here's what subject to means. This seller is actually an agent, a real estate agent. An agent lived here. I just closed on this property. You guys can see, let's go back to, oops, my bad. Oops. This is why I didn't share, because sometimes I screw this up.
It's all good.
So if we go to Zillow, here you go. Zillow will tell you I bought it on 2/2/22, which is ironic because I'm the subject to guy. 2/2. So I bought this just a couple of months ago, right? So if you look, I actually bought it for $469,900, and Zestimate says $465,500, which means I actually paid more than Zillow was willing to even say to this lady. And why was I willing to do that? Well, here's a story with the lady. Her name is Trevius. I actually have the phone call on my YouTube if you guys want to go and watch this. Trevius was in foreclosure, and she's an agent. So if she's an agent in foreclosure, what should she have done? Is she should have just put the house on the market and sold the house, right? It doesn't matter if you're in foreclosure, just sell the house and the buyer pays off your underlying mortgage and you walk away with some cash. Well, here's the problem. Trevius did a cash out refinance a year ago and she had zero equity in the deal. Zero equity. So if she tried to sell the property for what she owed, she actually couldn't, and she would have to come out of pocket money. Okay. So somebody that's in foreclosure, not able to make their payments, what's the likelihood that they're going to be able to come out of pocket to sell their house?
Yeah, very unlikely.
Zero. So what did I do? I went to Trevius and I said, hey, I like that house. That's a 8-bed, 5-bath house with a mother-in-law suite in the basement. I could actually have 2 units on Airbnb, the main house and the back unit. I want to buy that house from you. She's like, nobody's been able to give me a high enough offer to pay off my mortgage. And I go, well, here's the difference, Trevius. I'm actually going to take over your mortgage. I'm not going to pay it off. And she goes, oh, a subject to transaction. She knew exactly what it was because she's a real estate agent. And she goes, wow, I've never done one, but I've heard of them. And she goes, you're right. That would help me out so much. I could walk away from the house without cutting a check, transfer the deed into your name through a title company, and you just take over my payments. And I go, yeah. And she goes, so you don't have to apply for the mortgage, right? And I go, nope. Nobody has to check your credit. I go, nope. Does anybody have to check your tax returns? Nope. Nobody even has to do a job verification or nothing. I go, nope. We can go right to a title company. The title company can transfer the deed from you to me, and the mortgage stays in your name. And she goes, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever, because now you're going to make my house payments, and that's going to rebuild my credit because I've been in foreclosure for the last 6 months. I go, exactly. I'm going to put your mortgage back into a good situation. So a lot of people that are brand new, they go, well, if she's in foreclosure, that means she's behind on payments. So what are you doing with those payments? Guys, it was really simple. I did a loan modification. So we modified her loan where we put her arrears, or the amount of payments that she's behind on. We put them on the back of her loan. And now I just have a clean house with no arrears, like no late payments. I transferred the deed for like $75. And now I own that house on 405 Branch Forest in Atlanta, Georgia. And that thing generates about $20,000 a month on Airbnb. And my payment is about $4,500 a month. That net for me is close to $10,000 a month on that one property. I didn't have to go through an agent. I didn't have to come up with a down payment. I didn't have to worry about credit, credentials, or any cash whatsoever. And if I was brand new, which I'm not anymore, but when I was brand new, I would do these deals and I would find a partner to pay for the furniture and some other things to get it furnished for Airbnb. Now I just do that myself because I've got the credit, if you have a credit card, you can do that or whatever else. And so I turned that property to an Airbnb. I didn't have to put any money down, which is what kills a lot of people. I didn't use any credit, no credentials whatsoever. So the process of subject to is a way of buying people's properties and taking over their payments without any credit check, without any credentials like W-2, tax returns, bank statements, or anything like that, and just simply taking the ownership of somebody else's property without qualifying for a mortgage. And so now I have a payment. The cool thing is I'm the owner. So the way, for anybody that's like, wait, how does that work? Think about it this way. When you go to a grocery store, Jorge, have you ever used a credit card to buy groceries?
Yes.
Okay. So when you buy those groceries, you're walking out of that grocery store, you have two things. You have, well, let me ask you this. Who owns those groceries?
The groceries up until when I buy them.
Yeah, when you buy them, you use a credit card, you're walking out of the store. Who owns those groceries?
I guess the bank, because I owe them money.
No, this is great. I'm glad you said that. The reality is you used the bank's money to buy groceries.
Right.
Just like everybody uses the bank's money to buy houses, right? That they go get a mortgage.
Right.
The owner of those groceries is you.
Right.
But how do we verify ownership is through a receipt.
Right.
So just because you have a credit card bill doesn't mean you don't have ownership. So you guys have to understand there's two things in a real estate transaction too. You've got the credit card, which is the mortgage, and you have the ownership, which is the receipt. So if let's say somebody comes into the grocery store and as I'm about to walk out, could I technically hand over the receipt and the bag of groceries to that person and let them walk out of the store and now they're the new owner of those groceries?
Yes.
Yes, I can. But the problem is now I still owe money on my credit card, right? So all that I do, this is what I do. I go, I'll make your credit card payment for me. Just transfer your groceries over to me. And so I didn't have to go through the aisles. I didn't have to pick out the groceries. I didn't even have to have the credit card because somebody else had to qualify for a credit card, fill out the application, wait for it to show up in the mail, get it set up when the credit card shows up. Like somebody else had to go through all that stuff. Okay. Same thing with the house. They had to go get it qualified and put the down payment down and use their credit. They did all that stuff. But all I now have to do is I just have to transfer the deed, which is the certificate of ownership, right? And same thing as a receipt with a grocery situation. Just transfer the deed over to my name and now I'm the owner. I get all the tax benefits. The property goes up in value. That's mine. As I pay the mortgage down, which is the credit card bill, I'm the one that gets credit for that. Now there's no debt there. It gets paid down. I can sell it, buy it. I can sell it. I can refinance it. I can sell or finance it. I could do 1,000 things with that property because I'm the owner. Even though I didn't have to qualify for the credit card, I didn't have to call the credit card company for permission to do that. I just simply transferred the ownership. And so that's the process of subject to. With real estate, I do it with cars. If you guys go on my YouTube channel, you'll see I just did it with a Kia. There was a guy that had leukemia. And he goes, I can't make my car payment anymore. And I've got a Kia that if I sold it today, I would actually have to come out of pocket to sell it because it's not worth what I bought it for off of the lot. I go, okay, but you put a down payment down. You use your credit. You did this. I can take that Kia and put it into my Turo fleet. And that car can make me $1,000 a month. And I didn't have to give the guy any money. He literally just goes, here's the title and registration to the car. It's all yours. And I just took over the car payments. And now I make a $300 car payment on his Kia, but it brings in $1,500 a month for me. And I net about $1,000 on Turo on a car. I bought that car subject to. The payment I pay to that guy's car payment is not in my name. It's in his name. So I didn't have to qualify for it, but I'm the one that holds the ownership, which is very, very cool. And so it's an incredibly powerful way of buying property. And so I do same thing with seller finance. I do it with novation agreements, which is another topic for another day. But like right now, I'm buying a $60 million apartment complex in Las Vegas, Nevada, all on creative finance. So everybody else is out there like, I got to get a down payment. I got to get credit. I got to go to the bank. I got to do that. I haven't done that in the last 700 transactions. I have not used a bank, my credit, credentials. I don't even know what my credit score is. And I'm buying typically 2 to 3 Airbnbs every single month utilizing creative finance.
So now no down payments, no closing costs, no credit.
Sometimes there's down payments. Like I've got a property in Atlanta that was a $1.3 million purchase, gorgeous home in Ansley Park. And the seller owns it free and clear. And she says, yeah, I'll seller finance it to you, but I want $50,000 down. Okay, great. I want that asset, so I'll go put $50,000 down. But that property, I put 4% down on a $1.5 million property, or whatever that ended up being mathematically. 4%. So sometimes you are putting down payments down. You can't get away from that on every transaction.
Right.
But a lot of times I'm buying properties with no money down.
So the loan stays under the seller, but the title is transferred to you.
Yep.
And how long does it stay that way?
Until the house is paid off. Or until I sell it or I refinance it. Like a lot of times we'll refinance them because like I'll have a subject to loan with a 5% interest rate. And a year ago, 2 years ago, interest rates were like 2.5 for me.
Right. So you refinance it.
So I refinanced it and I pulled cash out.
Right.
So the challenge people have is they think, okay, well, the mortgage is still in the person's name. So how do you own the house? Guys, I've already told you, the mortgage and the credit card bill has nothing to do with who owns the groceries.
It's a title.
It's the title. It's the receipt. So the main thing I care about is that receipt and that title in my name? If it is, then I'm the owner. So it's a very simple process. In fact, most people overcomplicate it because they have never heard of it before. So they start creating complications in their brain. It's actually very, very, very simple.
Powerful. Yeah. A couple of days ago, I got in touch with a seller in Joshua Tree, and he wanted basically fair market rent.
Right.
I'm sorry, fair market, like purchase price. He said, "Hey, my property's worth like 450 on Zillow. The neighbors just sold." He's like, "I want 450." So obviously we got off the call. We're like, "Man, the most we could give you is like 350." And so we just ended. But I could have done a subject to. I could have said, "Hey, why don't I take over ownership, transfer the title to me? I take over the payments. The loan stays under his name." And then I could have then basically done a borough, basically do whatever I want at that point, remodel it, turn it into.
Yeah, I call that the SIR method. Actually, I call it the seller finance, rehab, rent it out, and repeat. I call it the SIR method. Other people call it BRRRR because they have to go buy it. I
Right.
bought it, but I didn't go get a loan for it. Right. I got the seller to seller finance it. So a lot of times, like I have a mobile home park in Yuma, Arizona, and it's like 35 units. And so like a really good situation is like sometimes you get people that don't have a mortgage. So what do you do in that situation? Well, you turn the seller into your bank. So I've got a 35 unit mobile home park. I've got 80 units now in Yuma, and all on seller finance. Seller wants 600 grand for the property, 35 cash flowing mobile homes. And the wholesalers are giving him like $350,000 to $400,000 offer because they know they can assign it for like 360 to 410, somewhere in there. So I get a wholesaler who goes, man, I offered the seller 350 and I have a buyer at 360. So I'm going to make $10,000, but I need your help. I need your help talking this guy down from 600 grand to 350. I'm like, are we really having this conversation? Do you think that there's negotiators that are that good that they're going to cut some guy in half that has the property free? He owns it free and clear. He has no financial pain at all. And the property's bringing in like 30 grand a month. You're telling me somebody's going to convince this guy to go down to 350? He goes, well, what do I do? And I go, let me call the seller with you. So I call the seller and I go, hey, his name's Tom. So I said, hey, Tom, my name's Pace. I know you're getting a lot of offers in the 350 to 400,000 range. If I gave you the 600 you're looking for, would you be willing to give me terms? And the seller, Tom, goes, what do you mean terms? I go, well, Tom, let me break it down like a vehicle real quick. And I tell every seller this story. You guys can see this on my YouTube channel. I've used this story on almost every call I've ever had with a seller. I go, well, Tom, let me break it down like a car. I used to be a contractor for a long time. I built houses for other people, and I had this F-150 that my crews used. And that F-150 hit 320,000 miles, and it started having a lot of problems with that truck. So I decided there was a day where my crew goes, hey, the truck overheated. There's a problem. We can't use it. And they basically took the day off. And I was like, crap. So I'm now realizing this truck is costing me more money. There's headaches here, right? And I'm like, kind of like Tom, kind of like you at the mobile home park. You're getting older. There's some headaches here. You're kind of looking to sell the property because you just want to live your life. And he goes, yeah, that's right. And I go, same thing with my truck. So what I did, just like you went to Zillow, Tom, and saw your property value at 600, I went to the Zillow for cars. It's called kellybluebook.com. So I go to kbb.com and I see that my F-150 is worth $5,000. And I'm like, bullshit. I'm not selling this thing for $5,000. Because if I put this thing on the market for $5,000, you know what's going to happen? Somebody's going to come along and go, let me give you a cash offer for $3,500. And I go, that's what's going on with you right now is you put your house on the market for 600, but everybody's coming to you for $350,000 to $400,000. You and I are in the same predicament, Tom. And he goes, so what'd you do? I go, well, I'm belligerent, just like you. You and me, Tom, are the exact same person. I'm belligerent. So what I did is I go, I'm going to go put this thing on Craigslist for $10,000. So I go put this thing on Craigslist for $10,000. Tom, do you think I sold this property? I sometimes I'll tie in property when I'm telling the story. I go, do you think I sold the property? I go, I mean the truck, because it then helps him connect the two. And he goes, I don't know, probably not. I go, no, I didn't. I didn't even get a call, a text message, nothing. Nobody messaged me whatsoever. And I go, so after 3 months, nobody bought it. I had nothing. I didn't even have offers. You at least have offers at $350,000. I wasn't even getting offers. And he says, so what'd you do? And I go, well, here's the problem. My wife comes in, she taps me on the shoulder in my office. I'm sitting in my office in front of my computer working. She goes, hey, sweetheart, you know, that truck that's sitting in our driveway for the last 3 months, it's kind of getting in my way. I'm kind of getting sick of going around it and, you know, whatever. Are you selling that thing? I haven't seen anybody come look at it. I go, babe, I'm not going to sell this thing for anything less than, you know, what it's worth. And she goes, well, have you thought about maybe just taking payments on it? I go, oh my gosh, really? That's genius. That's genius. Why didn't I freaking think of this? So what I did, Tom, is I go back to Craigslist and I change one thing. I literally changed one thing on my ad. And it said F-150 will take payments. Now, Tom, do you think I sold that truck for $10,000? He goes, probably. That's great. I go, actually, Tom, I sold that truck for $12,500 and the guy gave me $1,000 down. And he goes, wow, that's amazing. And I go, that's what I want. That's what I mean when I say I will give you terms. Will you work out terms with me? I can give you the price you want as long as you give me the terms I need to make this work. Will you be my bank and seller finance this to me? And Tom goes, yeah, I like this. So what are you thinking on payment? And I go, well, you tell me. If I come all the way up to $600,000, nobody else, I'm going to give you $250,000 more. So I'm giving you what you want. What can I get in return? And he goes, well, you know, you're going to want a cash flow on this thing. So why don't we work out a payment where you pay me $10,000 a month for 20 years until this thing's paid off, whatever it was. Right. And so I worked out a deal where he's paid, I think it's like, I'm paying him off in like 10 years, something short, a short time frame. And so he just let me take over payments. Here's the cool thing. I own it today. I've owned it now for 2 years. Cash flows net in my pocket about $7,500 after my payment to Tom, which is great. Zero down, nothing. Here's the greatest part of that story. Other than you now in the audience should understand now, you should the value. Remember this: the value of a property is not what Zillow, a broker, a real estate agent, or anybody tells you it's worth. The value of a property is what you can do with it. And for me, the value with that truck. Think about Jose. Jose is the buyer of my truck. Why did Jose pay $12,500 for my truck? Well, it wasn't because of the purchase price. He bought it because he was able to take it, get into the truck for a very low money, and immediately turn around and produce income with that truck. He fixed it. He got the things fixed, and he went out and started a painting company and started generating $6,000 or $7,000 extra per month because now he had an extra truck for his crew. Do you think Jose was bothered by the $350 payment I made him, or that he made to me for whatever? Was he bothered that he paid me $12,500 plus interest on that truck? Did he overpay for that truck? Well, yeah, maybe by normal people's standard, he overpaid for that truck. But in reality, he did not overpay for that truck. The value of the truck is what he could do with it, not the purchase price, and how easy it was for him to get into the deal. So for me, with Tom, the mobile home park I own, the value was not the purchase price. It was how fast can I make money immediately?
Right.
And does the cash flow I bring in pay off whatever purchase price I gave him? Now, funny thing is, the property 2 years later is now worth $700,000, but I've paid this guy down tremendously and cash flowing simultaneously. But here's the best part of the story. The wholesaler who brought the deal to me was going to get paid 10 grand assigning that to somebody at 360. I paid him $30,000 for a $600,000 purchase because it came with terms. So the value with terms is tremendous. So like the deal you ran into in Joshua Tree, the conversation I would have with that seller is, would you give me terms on that purchase price? And the seller's always going to say, what's terms? So you need to tell them a story, which is, I always tell people, just use my F-150 story. Just steal the story.
Yeah.
Steal it. And I hear people like putting on their YouTube channel of like their Nissan Sentra or this, that, or the other. It's hilarious. But you have my permission, steal my story, because it is a real story. It really happened to me. And that's really how I figured out creative finance, was selling a freaking truck to somebody for 2.5 times what it was worth on Kelley Blue Book. And I felt like I won. And Jose felt like he stole from me. He felt like, he's like, I stole that truck. Everybody else wants to check my credit. They want to see my pay stubs. This guy freaking, dude, creative finance is so magical what it can do. Everybody walks out of the transaction winning. And when I'm a wholesaler, which I do wholesale too, I feel like sometimes I'm taking equity from somebody that could simply turn around and do the fix and flip themselves. And it's not a win-win. Financially, it's not a win-win. It's a win for me, but financially for them, it's not the greatest win. Usually for the seller in a wholesale transaction, the seller is gaining convenience, and I'm the one that really benefits financially. But in creative finance, the seller and you walk away going, dude, I feel like I freaking won. So I've grown addicted to just helping people and solving problems. And creative finance solves 90% of the problems that a cash transaction cannot solve.
Wow. It's powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful. One last question for you. For anybody that is, looking to get into real estate, maybe they want to do Airbnb or long-term, whatever it is. But all they know is the conventional way of 10, 15, 20% down. And they're like, hey, does this really work? Or maybe they're in that analysis paralysis where they want to know everything before they can do anything. They're just overanalyzing, right? They're waiting on the sidelines, trying to time. What do you say to that person that's trying to break into this industry? Because I have a lot of people that are just getting started in real estate, but they're just overthinking it and they're just waiting on the sidelines. What do you say to that type of person?
I would tell them that 99% of what you learn in real estate actually doesn't come from a mentor. It doesn't come from YouTube. It doesn't come from a book. It doesn't come from anything but one thing. 99% of what you learn in real estate comes from actually doing real estate. Okay? Because it changes. It's like somebody could tell me all day long how to kiss a girl for the first time. Okay, you lean your head, you do this, you do that, but it's not until you're in that moment that everything changes. And so for the people, the over analytical, the people that overthink things, guys, it's an equation. It's an equation. You take action, you create problems in your business, and when you solve problems in your business, which is a requirement, the more problems I create, the more I learn and the more successful I am. What we were taught when we were coming up in high school and elementary and our church and our this and the other, you make a mistake, that's bad. Mm-hmm. In business, it's the opposite. The equation is the more mistakes you make, the more money you potentially make. So I would say go out and make mistakes as fast as you possibly can. What a mentor to me is, right? So like a Jorge who has a great program and a great system and great support calls. What I tell my people is I said, the reason I'm here as a mentor is to be here when you make those mistakes. But I can't help you if all you're doing is learning and absorbing information. Don't come and talk to me on my Zooms and don't come and hang out with me unless you have a problem. I want problems. I want to reward you with time with me because you have a problem. And that's what a mentor is to help you get through those problems faster. The reality is most information, I feel like creative finance is not really easily found on internet as much as it should be, but it will over time. Most information you can find out about how to start an air conditioning business, how to start a plumbing business, how to do this, how to be a transaction coordinator, how to blah, blah, whatever. But why do 99% of people fail? Is because 99% of people are afraid of making problems, and they don't understand the equation is that every time we learn something, it came from a problem. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're afraid of making mistakes, I can tell you there's way easier ways to get into real estate than just going and spending a bunch of money and saving up a 10 or 15% down payment. What I would do if I'm brand new is I would actually go work for somebody else's business and learn what they're doing and how they're doing it and get my hands on transactions without having any risk. So if you're super afraid of risk, go work for a wholesaler, go work for a real estate agent, go be a transaction coordinator, go do anything with real estate and learn and learn and learn by getting paid to learn. So like my acquisition people that work on my team, they average about 15 grand a month take home from acquisition commissions. Guess what? I generate the leads. I have the virtual assistants. I have the systems. I have the risk. I have the problems, but they come in and make 15 grand a month. And then 6 months to 12 months later, they go, really? This is it? Generate leads, close the deals, make money. That's it. What was I overthinking? I'm just going to go do my own thing. And so a lot of times, guys, you should just go find somebody to work for. Where do you find, Jorge, do you have a Facebook group?
Yes.
Okay. Facebook groups are the greatest place to find somebody to work for. You go in there and go, I'm brand new and I want to dedicate 6 months of my after work life. So let's say you work a 9-to-5 job, get off at 5, go work for somebody else from 5 to 9, calling their leads, organizing their leads, doing paperwork, administrative work, whatever you can do in somebody else's business, you will get the reps and you will feel a lot better having momentum instead of just absorbing content. The last thing I'll say is that although 99% of what I learn in real estate comes from taking action, 90% of what I retain in my brain comes from teaching other people. And so what I always tell people is quickly learn how to learn information by causing problems in your business and solving it, and then turn around and help 5 other people, because that's how you retain the information long-term.
The best way to learn something is to teach it.
All day.
And you also mentioned something along the lines of, I'm either going to win or I'm going to learn, right? There's no such thing as losing when you take action.
Never.
Man, that was super powerful. And then yes, the last thing before we wrap up is you also mentioned about going and working for someone else's business. It's not really about how much you're going to go make, but again, it's about who you become in the process.
Right.
Because who you become in the process will give you the best return on investment.
All day.
Appreciate having you, Pace. How can people get in contact with you? How can they reach out to you, learn from you? What are your social media handles and all that?
Just look up Pace Morby on YouTube or Instagram. Guys, I don't have anything to sell you. If you're gonna try and join a mentorship, I would join Jorge's if you haven't already. I have my YouTube's free. My Instagram is free. Whatever you guys need, just DM me on Instagram. Sometimes people will go, hey, I need a lender here. I need a this there. I need one of your students in this location. I have a successful student in literally every zip code in the United States. I have a successful student. So if you guys need somebody to squat up with, I'll put you in touch with somebody if you need that. And if you need a lender that will lend on a BRRRR deal or this, that, or that, DM me on Instagram, and I actually answer my DMs.
Boom. Love it. Thank you so much for coming on here, brother. Appreciate. It's probably the best podcast I've ever done.
No way, dog. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I just started like 8 weeks ago. But no, seriously, I mean, just in the last 10 years of being in this business, you really stand out. Just again, your dedication, your drive, your commitment, your vision, it's unmatched. So definitely appreciate being a servant leader and really dedicating your life to transforming, hundreds of thousands of lives, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you tremendously.
Thank you, guys.